It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin'Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchi, thanks a lot for joining us. It's a second Sunday in the brand new year, but the first one away from a holiday. That's assuming you're done with your holidays. But politics didn't really take a break. A lot has been happening over the course of the week. A lot of politicians and candidates are still crisscrossing the country or their wards or constituencies trying to, appeal to voters. We do expect that the coming weeks will be quite intense because February the 25th is drawing much closer and the holiday is over, and now we're in the thick of things. But hey, we're going to be talking about a lot about politics this afternoon, but particularly about something that got a lot of Nigerians talking, the endorsements that have been pouring in for certain candidates, especially at the federal level. There's been a lot of controversy as to whether, that has any effect on how people vote, whether they even matter at all. I'm joined now by Aziz Quadri, who's a politics and corporate communication strategist. Thanks for being here today. Welcome back.
Welcome. Thank you.
I feel like we'll see you when it's election season. We haven't seen you since 2019.
Thank you for having me.
So, the endorsements are coming in, and it's been quite controversial, and I wonder why sometimes, because you find that a lot of these people who are giving out this endorsement have been courted by a lot of the candidates as well, and then it goes to one person. What are your thoughts on endorsements? How powerful are they? Do they matter? Or do they not matter when you, as the candidate, then don't get it?
I mean, it's first of all, thank you very much for having me again. It's been too long. And in particular to your question, you can't say they don't matter. However, they're being given by a lot of, I mean, the one that caused the biggest controversy was Obasanjo's endorsement of Peter Obi. And everybody says Obasanjo is an elder statesman that should stay out of political affairs. And the issue with endorsements is you have to look at the people giving them as well. Are the people giving them credible enough to give endorsements? Are the people giving them, what did they do with their time in office? How do Nigerians see those people? It's a little bit, I mean, when you don't get it, a lot of the parties will say it doesn't matter. However, for me, the most important thing that matters are votes. Who's going to come out on election day? How many people are going to come out on election day? How many people are going to go to the ballot box, defend their vote, cast their vote, and make sure that that vote is counted? Yeah,
I hear you, but I also wonder, there must be a reason why the candidates court this endorsement. We've had the Afenifere, which seem to be split into several endorsements for different candidates. Yeah. Like you said, we have Obasanjo. We've also had one in the Southeast who's in a politician, Arthur Eze, who ended up endorsing the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar, which has also caused some controversy amongst Peter Obi supporters. So there's all of that. But are there people who you see that decide to vote based on what an Obasanjo says, or what an Arthur Eze says, or what an Afenifere says? Do you think that happens? And if you're saying no, then why do people bother to court the endorsement?
People bother to court the endorsements because it does well for their political campaign. It does well for their it does well for their strategy. When an elder statesman or an Arthur Eze or, when these groups are endorsing you, it bodes well for you. However, I'm not sure that an endorsement from Obasanjo would then force the people that live in Ogun State to all go and vote for one man. Neither am I sure that an endorsement from Arthur Eze will force everybody that, from that region of the country to go and vote for one man either. I think endorsements are good to show your credibility. It's good to visit the elder statesmen. It's good to visit past presidents. But if you have people endorsing different people, like I said, it then becomes down to personal opinion. It's politics of interest at the end of the day. What is their interest in endorsing this person?
I hear you. Away from the endorsements now, I just want to talk generally on the way things are going so far. We're going into the thick of things, I want to believe. Typically, the campaign season, I always say it's about 6 weeks. This particular campaign season is completely different. We've had a very long run where a lot of the candidates, we didn't even know what to do with the time. But it looks like now we're in that crunch time where give or take 6 to 8 weeks is what is left to the elections now. what are you expecting to see, especially from Nigerians now, away from even the candidates? Because we're trying to ask the important questions. We've asked for debates on the federal level. We're not necessarily getting them. You know, a few candidates have refused to show up. Others have said, well, if you don't show up, I'm not going to come. You know, so that is happening on that level. Does that still matter? Do you see all those polls that talk about so many undecideds? And what does it take someone between now and February 25th to be decided on who to vote?
Nigerians have to do a lot of research this time around. And I think I was here 4 years ago saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Nigerians have to do a lot of research this time around because manifestos are out there for you to see. I would love if we could have a debate before the presidential election because I think it's crucial for candidates to stand next to each other and everybody should speak about what they want to do for the Nigerian economy, what they want to do for the Nigerian citizens. But past the presidential level, Ebuka, the Senate level, who are your Senate candidates? Who are your House of Rep candidates? Who are your State House of Assembly candidates? Look at Banky W in Etiosa. Fantastic candidate, running for House of Rep under the PDP. Look for your candidates. Look for the people that you can hold accountable. Look for the people that you can measure their success as well. Look for the people that, you know, they're a degree of separation away from you. Not people that disappear for 3 years and then come back, or 3.5 years and then come back in 6 months to come and court for your votes after you've run down the economy, you've run down security, you've run down infrastructure. You know, it's absurd. Nigerians have to do research and they have to make the right decision. They have to go to the polls in numbers. In 2019, I believe that apathy was our issue. Apathy can no longer be our issue because apathy only harms the citizen. It harms us. We have to go to the polls in numbers of 60, 70, 80 million people. You have to break it down and you need numbers. You need numbers to vote. You need numbers at the ballot boxes and you need numbers to show up on election day.
I wonder if we, at a point where I feel like we always have, but do you wonder if parties still matter that much, you know? Because you're saying do your research, investigate the candidates or interrogate the candidates or, you know, do your research on the candidates. And I hear a lot of people talking about the fact that they're voting for certain people because of what they stand for or their track record, not necessarily because of the party they have. You know, a lot of the Peter Obi followers today are following Peter Obi, not necessarily the Labour Party. You have, even the APC candidate has said, judge me by my track record, not necessarily the records of the APC or the current government. So you have a lot of that happening. Is that the sense you're getting? Do parties even still matter? And I talk about that because our ballot sheets are really long. We have tons of party logos there, and you wonder, do pictures replace that? I know that's not going to happen now, but is that where we should be thinking ahead?
I mean, first of all, it's not as long as 2019, thank God for that. But I'm still a firm believer that party platforms matter. Party platforms are integral to winning elections in any country. If you look at the UK, if you look at the US, Nigeria is no different. You know, whether fortunate or unfortunate, our own parties have not used power for good, or they've not used power good enough for the Nigerian citizens. But I still believe that you need a strong party structure that goes across from presidential level to governors, to senators, to reps, to assemblies. You need a party structure that has been built over time, that has been built over years. If you actually want to grab and arrest power in this country, if you actually want to hijack that plane, you need party platforms. You need a strong party platform, sorry.
We're joined now by Adeola Onikoyi, who's a legal practitioner. Thanks for being here today. We're talking earlier about endorsements and the power that they carry, if any at all. And I just wanted to get your perspective on that, you know, because a lot has come out in the last couple of days with, you know, people who are, we have a former president and, you know, a couple of other people who have jumped into the game, you know. Do you see that having any effect on how things turn out on the 25th of February?
I think to an extent, yes. Right, to an extent, because these people that are endorsing, these personalities that are endorsing candidates are quite influential, right? We're talking about a former president. We're talking about major leaders and the likes. And so, yes, to an extent, because they also have their own support base. But at the end of the day, it's one thing to endorse someone. It's another to endorse and then work for the person, right? Because over the past couple of elections, we've seen all these endorsements happen. We've seen them pan out. And we've seen sometimes it's just a matter of endorsements in newspapers. It's a whole media jamboree, and that's the end, right? But I think this time is something different, personally. I think this time people are galvanized to work for the candidates. No matter who it is you're supporting, people are actually galvanized to support, to work for their candidates. So yes, to an extent, because endorsements do matter, but we'll see.
Speaking of endorsements, you know, and working for your candidates, a lot of people have pointed out quite curiously that Mr. President hasn't been as vocal or obvious enough in the campaign of his party's candidates, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I mean, I know I saw in the news that he's going to be a part of a few rallies coming up.
10 states
about 10 states or something like that. But curiously, I mean, the last time we had a scenario like this where a sitting president was leaving, I think was in 2007.
Yes.
When President Obasanjo campaigned for Yar'Adua and campaigned fiercely. He was even more visible. Even more visible than the candidates. You know? So that's sort of playing in people's minds. You know? What are your thoughts on how that's handled? Because, I mean, you should be able to boast about your track record and say, this is what I've done, make sure this guy continues.
You should be proud of your party's candidates. I think, to be honest, Major General Muhammadu Buhari has already said he's tired, to be honest. I think he has already indicated he wants to just go back to Daura and rest. So the fact he hasn't jumped in yet, I'm not surprised. The fact he's jumping in now, and especially when his party's candidate is going to be doing a major tour of northern states and the likes, they need to get out the vote, right? And the number one get out the vote person they have is the current president. So yes, bringing him out now is a bit strategic too, in and of itself, because if you bring him out earlier, you know, there's fatigue that would have to be factored in. So it's a bit strategic in their point of view, but I understand the people who are saying that maybe he's not as enthusiastic as, you know, he should be about the kind. I understand that, because at the end of the day, the presidency always says we should look at the president's body language. So I guess we're doing that.
It tells quite a lot.
Yes.
Let me come back to you now, Aziz, and away from the presidency. Do you worry that there's not enough attention being paid to the other, you know, elections that are coming up? There's an election a week after the presidential election, which is the governors and the states' houses of assembly, which are very, very fundamental. Because we're talking a lot about restructuring from a few candidates. If anything is going to be restructured in the coming years, the state houses of assembly are going to be extremely fundamental to that. You know, and of course the National Assembly has always been in the news, whether for good or bad. So they also matter quite heavily. Do you think there's enough attention being paid by Nigerians to these other seats that have been run for, whether it's executive or legislative, you know, away from the big gun?
Honestly, I don't think so, and I think that's where Nigerians need to pay more attention to. I tell a lot of people that your local government chairman has more to do with your everyday well-being, everyday life, how good that is than your president sometimes. And I don't think Nigerians have paid enough attention over the years, and even now, to positions like House of Reps, to positions like Senate, like State House of Assembly. A lot of Nigerians will walk past their reps and not know that they've walked past, you know, the person that's supposed to be the #1 person in their constituency. Nigerians need to know who your Senate candidates are, and not just who they are, but what they stand for, what kind of laws they want to introduce, what kind of things that they want to introduce into the upper and lower chamber of government. Go down to your House of Rep candidates. What kind of things do they want to introduce in their community, in their local governments? Is it tech hubs that they want to bring? Like I said, Banky W that's running in Etiosa is a fantastic example of what a House of Rep candidate, of what a House of Rep member should aim to look like, should aim to be. And the campaign that's being run in that constituency is a fantastic campaign as well. But people need to look at who are your Senate candidates, who are your State House of Rep candidates, who are your State House of Assembly candidates? Because like you said, if that restructuring does happen, a lot of power is going to go down to the states. A lot of power is going to be devolved down to governors, down to State House of Assembly members. So you need to know who exactly is on your ballot box. And the fight doesn't stop on February the 25th.
Yeah.
Like you so rightly pointed out, a week or two later, depending on, you know, what happens, how things go, we're back to the polls to vote the governor. Who are your governorship candidates? What have they done? The governorship seat is an executive seat, so it's a seat of action. It's a seat that you have to function in. What have these people done in your states? What have these people done to better your everyday life in your state?
Very quick question to both of you. Let me start with you as quickly as you can, because we're talking endorsements, we're talking about knowing your candidates on the lower level. And Governor Wike keeps coming to mind, because he has a couple of people who is supporting in the PDP in Rivers State, you know. But on the national level, he seems to be detached. Not seems, he's completely detached. And there's even conversations about him endorsing candidates from other parties on a federal level. So let me start with you and I'll come to you. What are your thoughts on how that's going to play out? Because the G5, we're hearing about cracks in the G5 maybe. We're hearing that some governors are now trying to apologize to Atiku or to the national chairman of PDP. You know, every party has their mess, but this one is in our faces every single day.
Every day.
And we have a presidential candidate who calls himself the unifier in all of this. So it's a bit
not much unifying going on there. To be honest, right, the G5 composition is a bit curious, right, because of the different interests involved. People running for, one person running for second term, senatorial candidates and the likes. But as for Governor Wike and what he has said he would do, it's not going to be the first time in Nigerian politics that a politician would say, vote this party for this positions and vote another, and then switch up for the other side. It's not the first time it's going to happen. So if it does happen, there is precedent for that. And to just speak briefly about their grief, what they say their grief is anyways, I think it is quite valid what they're fighting for. I think it is quite valid what they're fighting for. But at the same time...
But it's been, what, 8 months?
Yes, that's the point. That's the point I was about to make. But at the same time, when you are fighting for... You have to be smart about the way you're fighting. Let me just put it that way. You have to be smart about it, because at the end of the day, if you bring down your own house just to spite yourself or your neighbor, I'm not sure who wins there. Right? I'm not sure who wins there. So I think they just have to be smart about what they're doing. But if they do say, you know what, vote this party for this candidature and vote this other party for this, there is precedent for that.
What does being smart in this context look like for the party, for everybody involved? In 30 seconds, if you can.
Honestly, I don't know to what end Wike is going with this thing. And honestly, I want to commend the way that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has handled this thing by just not saying anything at all. Like I said, I don't know to what end. Like he said, it's not the first time, you know, governors will tell you vote for this party here and vote for another party there. But it's a fight in-house that should have stayed in-house, that should be resolved by now. What you're fighting for in the national chairman stepping down is too late. It's too close to an election for that to even happen. So to what end? Are you going to go and support the opposition? No, you can't. Are you going to support Peter Obi? We'll wait and see.
Wait and see.
But yeah, like I said, I don't know to what end. I don't know how far they want to take it. And a few of them have re-elections coming up, and they need to think about that.
Let's talk about INEC now. A lot of people are excited about the Electoral Act that was passed and how things are different. But we're also hearing stories about, you know, people discovering underage voters. You know, a lot of people are finding it difficult to pick up their PVCs. People are saying they are going to the places. Either allegedly INEC officers are asking for money or telling them to come back. Someone tweeted at me saying they told her to come back in 3 weeks when the deadline is in 2 weeks. You know, so we're hearing weird stories like that. But ultimately, people still want to have faith. I don't know what you think about how INEC is looking in the lead up to this.
I think the Electoral Act did very well for the next election. They've brought in the bimodal accreditation system, which is the Beavers machine, and there are no more manual accreditation. So the machine has to accredit you before you can vote, and the amount of accredited voters has to match the amount of ballot papers that you count at the end of the day. So I think the Electoral Act has done well to instill some confidence in people that this next election, to an extent, could be free and fair. I think the attack on INEC offices and all of these claims of PVCs being bought or PVCs not being able to be picked up, it's now starting to, eat out at Nigerians again. It's starting to drop that moral confidence. It's starting to drop that confidence that this election could be actually free and fair. I think INEC need to do more. I think INEC needs to do more to show that this election can actually be free and fair.
Yeah, and Nigerians are naturally very skeptical. And you can't blame us because lessons have been learned over the years.
We've seen a lot.
But speaking of lessons, we were excited about the fact that Osun State happened, Ekiti happened, and Anambra, I believe. Right. So it was like a test run for INEC. And a lot of people are kind of okay with the way things turned out. I think the biggest hoopla that we got from these elections was vote buying on the day of elections, as against, the Beavers having issues or anything. Do you see that as a good test run of things to come? Because state elections are completely different from a national election.
Absolutely. And thank God we've gone from the era of snatching ballot boxes. Thank God we've moved on from those eras.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But as he said, with the technology that has been introduced and with the new Electoral Act and all the various innovations from all parties, actually, including the CBN that is, trying something new, including them. So with all these innovations, I believe we are moving towards the right direction. Right, we're moving to the right steps. But also, as Aziz said, these attacks on INEC offices bother me. Right, it's beginning to bother Nigerians because elections haven't started and we're already seeing scenes of offices being burnt down. What's going to happen on election day? The day after election, when the results start trickling in? Does INEC have a contingency plan for those things? Because it's all well and good to conduct the election on the day of the election, but then what happens next? Right, how do you protect your staff? How do you protect the votes in and of itself? So we're hearing good noises from INEC, but it's not enough, right? The confidence is still not there, and I think they need to do more. I think they need to speak directly to Nigerians. Right now, what's happening is INEC is talking to the parties, and maybe the media once in a while. INEC is not actually addressing Nigerians as to this is what we're doing. This is how we're making your elections safe. So they need to do better there.
I don't know if you have people around you who have not been able to pick up their PVC.
Their PVC.
I always wonder, what do you tell them?
Keep going.
Someone tweeted at me. I know we always say don't listen to social media a lot.
Keep going.
I put out a tweet saying, go and pick up your PVCs.
Keep going.
And a few of the reactions were something both of you have touched on, the fact that, well, I'm going to pick it up, but I can't go out and vote anyways, because this person lives in the southeastern part of Nigeria, where we know what's happening. So there's also that in the back of people's minds. Can I comfortably go out, spend 3, 4, 5 hours outside of my house and be safe? And we don't seem to hear a lot from that. We've had people from the INEC on this show before. They always say they're in collaboration with the security operatives. I don't know what the security operatives are preparing for a day like this when the entire country has to be safe. And it's a time when, sadly, elections and violence in Nigeria almost sort of, they go hand in hand. So I don't know what you tell young people when you see them. Or Nigerians, not necessarily young people.
For me, you tell them that this thing is a battle. This thing, it's almost like war. And nowhere in the world is power given. Power is taken. And sometimes power is taken in the most difficult circumstances. They are not going to roll out a red carpet for you to come and take power from them. they're not going to put your polling units, they're not going to put ACs above your polling units so that, you know, you're cool so that you can make an informed decision. They're going to make it difficult. They're going to make it difficult to register to vote. They're going to make it difficult to pick up your PVCs. They're going to make it difficult on election day. They're not going to roll a red carpet out. But the statement is keep going. Because if you keep going, you can win this war. The Nigerian people can win this war. The Nigerian people can come out in masses and find a way to turn this country back around. So the message is, it's frustrating, I understand, but the message is keep going, keep going.
What happens if people don't show up this time? Because in the past, the excuse was apathy, you know,
yes.
enables rigging, enables the politicians to manipulate.
And it does.
Is that difference with the beavers in play? Does that still matter if people don't come out to vote? I don't know.
Yeah, well, of course, yes. You have to come out to vote. It matters. It matters to come out to vote. But I think, as I said earlier on, I think this time it's a bit different. There's a lot of enthusiasm across the board, all across the board. And I think a lot of people who 8 years ago, a lot of young Nigerians who 8 years ago were starting their degrees, right? And today,
It's worth.
I'm in. So, you know, those people are a constituency there that are eager to go out to vote. Because, and to speak on the apathy, we as Nigerians generally, we go through difficulties for things that matter to us, right? I'm thinking about the indignities and difficulties we go through when we attend concerts, when we are trying to, the times we're trying to get our NIN, or when, you know, you're going to MTN office. It's fresh in people's mind, that's the thing. Or when you're going to, you know, a telecommunications office and you see rows and rows of people, or when you're going to the bank and you see rows. Nigerians will stand there, they would stay there because what they're doing matters to them. So the message right now is we have to show people, we have to tell people that this election matters. We've seen what has happened in the last 7 odd years, right? We've all seen it. I don't need to talk about it. It is plain for all to see. So it matters because 8 years from now, you're going to be 8 years older, right? Because I think that scares a lot of people when you say that. And so, you know, do you want the same of the same, right? Or do you want something different? Or do you believe this particular candidate can do better than what is currently available? So we need to show people, and I always tell people that if you've not gotten your PVC, go back. Just keep going back, right? I got mine very easily. The first time registration was easy, got it in less than 10 minutes. It was quite easy. In Ikeja, it was very, very easy.
Same.
Right, so,
Same.
you know, you just have to keep going. You have to put it in mind, and you just have to keep going.
Same. I went to register in February, and I booked an appointment. I got there like 5 minutes earlier, and I was the only one there. However, when it came to June, there was a rush of X million amount of people trying to get their PVC. So Nigerians also don't help themselves sometimes. But you just have to keep going.
I mean, I think I get excited by a lot of what you're saying because we have a couple of first-time voters.
Yes.
In South Africa, they called them at the time the born frees, people who had never experienced apartheid. We have Nigerians now who are voting for the first time who have never experienced military rule. So these are people who are, their mentality is different. It's hard to suppress. We saw signs of that with the protest in 2020. So, I mean, we're hoping people are as resilient enough to come. On a final note, very, very quickly now, what do you think is going to shape these elections in 2023? It looks like a lot of tribal talk, a lot of zonal talk, a lot of religious talk. A lot of that, much more than anything else. Do you think that is what really shape it, or do you think the manifestos are going to matter at the end of the day? Very quickly.
Manifestos, wow. No, manifestos, most Nigerians are not going to read the manifestos of the candidates, to be honest, right? Most
brilliant ones.
They really are, even amongst the less popular candidates, right? That's the problem, because they are less popular. So, but I think Nigerians are just trying to get a feel as to what each candidate wants to actually prioritize, right? What they feel is their priority once they get into office. Is it the economy? Is it security? Is it production to consumption or consumption to production? Whichever it is, what is your priority? And I think that is the sentiment people are looking at. we've seen a lot of cross-ethnic and cross-tribal endorsements over the last couple of months. So that talk of ethnicity, it's there, but I think it's dampened a bit, right? People are looking for, what can you do to make my life better when you get in?
I think it will be different for different geopolitical zones. I mean, when you come down to some zones in the southwest, you have a little, you know, they're a little bit more enlightened. Some people will pick up the manifestos, but I think overall our voter education is very, very low, which is why things like religion, things like tribes seem to dominate who people are going to vote for. And our voter education is still very, very low. So I do think ultimately it will come down to, you know, religion in some places, it will come down to tribe in some places, whereas in a few geopolitical zones, it will come down to their manifestos.
Which is why these elections are very different, because I think for the first time in this era, we have 3 candidates from the 3 major parties who are front runners. So it is quite something to look out for. I personally am looking out for the economy and security. Anybody who gives me the best deal on those two, honestly. And I'm being very honest here. I'm literally burying my head in this manifesto to see who has the best deal on these 2 things. Because we fix these 2, I believe we're on our way to somewhere. Thank you very much for joining us today, Aziz and Adiola. Good luck in the coming weeks. And please stay safe out there. We'll take a break and be right back. Please stay with us.
10 years, an icon on Rubbin'Minds. The Ebuka Obi-Uchendu has done it all. It's been 12 years since he started this show. And, you know, he has done hundreds of viral interviews. We're talking about leading pioneered conversations on the show. And he has shown the world that there is no limit to the extent of his talent. The Ebuka Obi-Uchendu, I'm so excited to talk to you. I mean, you're smiling right now. Are you surprised?
Because I have a cold, and I was trying to, but I am quite surprised. But I saw the earpiece in your ear, and
and you knew already. I mean, but 10 years on stage, 10 years here. Congratulations to you, an icon.
Thank you. It was 10 years on the 6th of January.
Okay.
And I remember my very first show and how nervous I was. I tried to look for it on YouTube a few days ago, but I couldn't find it. Thankfully, I'm hoping it's been scrubbed off the internet. But yeah, 10 years has been quite a ride. I started off the show at a time when I had no experience of live television, and live television is completely different from anything. If you work on TV, you produce content, you know that live television is completely
different,
a different ballgame. So it was quite a challenge at the start, but I always say it's probably my favorite show to do these days.
Are you serious?
I enjoy it. Nothing teaches me lessons and just general knowledge more than this show.
I mean, very true, because you talk to a wide range of people.
I have to know something about everything.
Very true.
So.
No, but you know, I thought about it, and when I was told for the first time that you were 10 years, you've done 10 years here, first thing I said to myself was, you come here every Sunday, and I want to know, every time you walk through that door, what's on your mind? Do you go, oh, again, we're doing this?
I think it's so, I've gotten so into the show now that I don't even get into the zone until I'm seated here, which is probably like 10 minutes or 5 minutes to the show. Then I sit down. Of course, I get the rundown before I get here. I kind of have an idea what I'm going to be talking about. And it's always a diverse set of conversations, from politics to sports to entertainment to personalities, interviews, or whatever it is. So I have gotten into the groove over the years because now I kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
I know how to handle live television when I'm speaking and the director is screaming in my ear, or someone is walking past behind the camera. In the past, I would be distracted by that. But now, so it's kind of like second nature for me.
Yeah, because I'm trying to navigate that right now. Because I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? You know, because I'm very tense. I'm like, this live TV, I don't think I've ever done that before. And I know 10 years. But when you took the job and you walked through this door, did you know you were going to do 10 years?
Not at all. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I came in, I was unemployed. Let me say that first of all. I had been unemployed for about over a year because I just finished my master's, came back to Nigeria before I had this great conversation with Chude, who said, you know,
let's start a show.
Do this. So I came in not knowing exactly what it was going to become, but I love interviewing people, so I knew I was going to enjoy it.
Right.
I didn't know that I was going to enjoy it for this long. So the whole idea was come in, get in the groove, get a few personality interviews going, and then see where it ends up. There are people who keep wondering, oh, wow, I can't believe you've done this for this long.
Yes.
Either they thought I would have left at some point.
No, because that's sorry, that's the first thing I said. I said, if I was going to come here 10 years, every day, every Sunday, I'm not sure.
Religiously. And to my producers, I've never gotten a time off. I only am not on the show if I'm not able to make it.
Right.
I've never had a time where they say, Buka, okay, you're on leave.
You're on leave. No, but I mean, now you deserve that rest.
Please help me tell them. Because every time I have to say, oh, I can't be there, they're like, So we have to now we have to pre-record. And I think I don't complain about it, honestly, because I enjoy doing it. I mean, now that I'm married, the first 3-4 years I did it for, I was single. After getting married, it does take away sometimes from Sunday time with family.
Right.
But I think my family has also adjusted to the fact that, okay, we see you in the morning, then we see you in the evening. So it kind of works.
I mean, you've seen everybody work through here. You've seen people come and go. I mean, and you've talked to so many people. What makes it different every time you have to talk to someone here?
I think every time I meet someone because I'm human, I think we're all human, you have perceptions of your guests before they come and sit down. You kind of have a belief of what they would sound like, or what their beliefs would be, or what their opinions would be. So I'm always excited when people surprise me, hopefully mostly good. But yeah, I've had a few people who have come here, I thought they were going to be a certain way, and I'm just like, oh, wow. You are quite intense or quite diverse, or quite deep with your thoughts. So that always excites me, and I get that almost every Sunday. Yeah.
True, but I mean, that's fair. But you know, the younger generation, all of us, we look up to you. You've done it all. You've shown us that we can, break every band, just reach every height, and we're so proud of you, literally. And you were talking about navigating each conversation, and I know you've been friends with a lot of people you've spoken to here, right? And very interesting. I don't know if you know what I'm about to say right now, but I know that some of the conversations have affected some of your friendships and relationships. 9 years ago, someone walked off. Someone walked off from this stage right now.
Yes.
How was that?
So yes, I've had a few people. I mean, in the past, I used to be quite intense with the way I asked questions.
Yeah.
I still am, but I think...
And you did it in such a subtle way.
Yeah, I think maturity now has made it a lot more subtle, but I still am able to get the information I want out of the person. But in the past, I used to be quite intense and direct, and it did affect a few relationships. The one you're talking about was with Toke Makinwa.
Yeah, exactly.
Who I had a conversation with here. Was it 9 or 10 years ago? She came, and as soon as I said, thanks for joining us, have a good Sunday, she yanked the earpiece from her ear and walked off. We laugh about it now. She didn't talk to me for a couple of months.
I mean, you really worked together after that.
But, old things have passed away.
And behold.
And we're very good friends now. We laugh about it.
I mean, you even say on sets with Big Brother.
Yes.
And, I want to know, how have you been able to differentiate and distinct, these two separate entities, Rubbin'Minds, Big Brother? And you came from Big Brother yourself. You did Big Brother, and you've been able to carve a niche for yourself and, be that icon and legend that everybody looks up to. And
only me, legend.
No. Come on, you know. I mean, but really, how have you been able to distinct both platforms?
So when I started Rubbin'Minds in 2013, a few months down the line, I became the co-host on a different show on Ebony Live TV at the time called The Spot. So I think that sort of
I'm not that old. I watched that one.
So I think that prepared me for where I was going. I had to now navigate 2 completely different shows at the same time on air. And then a lot of other shows have also come up along the way, which I've had to sort of separate myself or have different personalities on. Right now, I do Rubbin'Minds, I do Big Brother, I do a show called Judging Matters, which is a courtroom-based show. Yep. I also have a podcast radio thing called The Black Box as well. So, but when I come here, right, I keep a completely open mind because I learn, like I say, I come here and I learn the most. I have a guest who's a neurosurgeon. I have no idea what that is about.
That is.
I have to just keep an open mind and, understand where they're coming from. Or I have a politician who's been a politician for 30 years. No matter what I know by reading or by watching stuff, they are experienced in that. So I come here with a very open mind, and it helps me to sort of navigate my job here. It's quite tough sometimes, to be honest, to separate them, especially scheduling. I think that's the toughest part of it, the timing of things, which sometimes things overlap or crossover, and then one has to suffer for the other. But with regards to delivery, I think most times when I'm in a space, I kind of just sip into what that space requires, and it works for me.
I mean, and we see it on social media, and we're like, oh, you do.
No, that's...
Right, that's the interview. That's the interview right there. If you're watching right now, hi. I mean, but, every young person looks up to you, really, Ebuka, and I want to know what's your advice to any young person who is watching right now.
I like how you say young. I'm young.
No, but you understand what I'm saying.
I know, I'm just kidding.
If you had 10 years to my life right now, if you had 10 years to my age.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So it depends on what career path you're trying to choose. With these times are quite different from when I started. I did my first TV show completely in 2006. It was a show on NTA at the time. It was a game show. And back then, you had 3, 4, 5 TV channels that you could work with. There was nothing like podcasting or vlogging or content creation. Now there's a lot more variety or a lot more options for you to explore. So then the fight was more trying to get on a platform. These days it's more trying to create your brand. If you can't get on a platform and see where things take you. So I think I'm also learning from you guys, to be honest, because it's a completely different time, and it's just how you guys go for it. Back then, I don't know that a lot of us could have just woken up and said, yeah, I want to start something.
Sure.
Maybe because the platforms were not there. But so I'm also learning from that. But I think most importantly, what I would say to a lot of people who are starting off in whatever career it is right now is to understand that some of these things might not always work as quickly as you think. I have a lot of conversations with people in their mid to early 20s, and sometimes I'm honestly disheartened by some of the things I hear, that the aspiration to own certain things before I'm 25, or to be at a certain point in my career at a certain age, There's this belief that by the time you're 30, the world is over. Oh my God, at 30, I haven't done anything. At 30, I wasn't working. I had no job at 30. I can look at it now and laugh.
Yeah.
But I had worked from 23 to 28. I was having a good run. I had 3 TV shows on at a time at one point. At 28, I moved to the United States to go get a master's degree. I came back and I was unemployed for a year and a half. Like literally, I had no job. I wasn't making any money. So the idea that you have to be this person,
there's so much
this
pressure
thing at a certain age, I think the pressure is a lot. I don't know that it's ever going to go away, because we live in a world now that everything is in your face. So it's harder to look away or fight it. But it's just to understand that things sometimes take time. Some people might make it in a week or in a year, and then your Lua can blow up in 1 year or 2 years. But not everybody's story is going to be that way. It's probably going to take you a little longer. But when you hit it, you might hit even bigger than the person who did it in a year.
Sure.
So that's the one thing I think I see recurring in young people.
I mean, I agree with
impatience.
you. I agree with you, because even me, I get pressure sometimes. I just start in the new year, and you're thinking to yourself, what can you do that's better? What can you use to beat that? It takes a time out of you to just be patient and, relax and say to myself, okay, I'm still young. I still got a long way to go. I mean, in all of these shows that you've done so many shows. I would want to know, what's your favorite show so far? The one that keeps recurring in your memory and you say, oh, I really enjoyed this one.
For different reasons. But first of all, the very first show I ever did, which was Friend for Foe, I always just say, I feel so bad for the producers, because I learned my work there on everything. Then, of course, for live television, I learned live television on this show.
Yes.
And I'm forever grateful for that. I work with amazing people, the crew. Some of them I've been with over these last 10 years. They watched me grow and advised me along the way. So for that, I'm very grateful as well. I mean, shows like Big Brother give me a completely different outlook. You know, the audience is different. It's probably younger. It's more continental. So for different reasons, but I keep saying, and I say that anywhere, that Rubbin'Minds has been my biggest teacher. And I never take that for granted, whether it's how to interview people, whether it's how to interact with people, how to handle live television, my career growth as a whole. It's one of the reasons why I'm still here, because every Sunday I come here, I know I'm going to go away with something, as annoying as my producers can be sometimes, but I come here and I'm always very grateful for the lessons I learned.
For the lessons you've learned. And you know, you mentioned your producers now, and I'm quite, two of them are my friends. One is my close friend, and one, you know, I see more as a mentor. And they said I should ask you this question backstage, and I want to know now, who is your favorite producer amongst these two?
Definitely Sheon.
Wow, I'm so sorry, Desmond.
Desmond, I have a bone to pick with you. Desmond is a good guy, I have to say. He's young, he's come into his own. In the last year, I've watched him grow. But we're still, you know, learning from each other, how to handle each other. But I'm very excited for where he's going. You know, I know that he had a passion for on-air work. I'm hearing that it's sort of pivoted to more production. And I'm excited for where he's going to go with that. Sheon, on the other hand, I've worked with much longer.
A long time.
You know, almost throughout my entire stay on this show. He doesn't have our time anymore. He's a big man now. I'm very grateful for how much we have grown together to where this show has become. But I'm going Desmond and Sheon, and everybody who's passed through this show. Temisan, your friend, was once an associate producer on the show. We've had so many people who have passed through this
so many people
sort of channel to where they are today. So.
I love it. You know, now you're mentioning so many people have worked through this place, and so many people, you know, I've learned so much from you and, you know, working here. And I want to know, what's your own greatest lesson from working here in these 10 years? What lesson would always remain in your mind?
I think the one big lesson, and I say that because I learn that almost every Sunday, is never judge a book by its cover. And I think it's very important for Nigerians or human beings as a whole, because I've been guilty of that a lot of times where I've had a guest, and I just sort of assumed
because of what you've heard about them,
what I've heard about them, or what I think about them. And then it surprised me every Sunday. So I think that's my biggest lesson.
I like it. I don't know why I was expecting something really deep.
That's it.
I mean, and that's very interesting to you and really good, because now you've spoken to so many people, and I want to know what interview is always at the back of your mind. I wonder what you would probably say. This is my favorite. I remember this one.
Three different scenarios. One, we had a youth debate before the 2015 elections, and everybody who was on that debate is sort of a big name now in politics. And I'm very proud of the fact that we showcased them on Rubbin'Minds, so I like that. Reminisce, I always talk about him, the artist. He was one of those people who I wasn't sure what I was going to expect from him, but he's come here twice, and the 2 times he's been here, he completely blew me away. Last but not least, for a very interesting reason I can't completely disclose, but it was Asari Dokubo, who was known as a militant at the time, or a Niger Delta activist, and is a politician now. And his persona on air and off air was quite different and exciting. I was just like, oh, interesting. You know, we see him as this guy who's very fierce. But off air, he was quite personable, and it was quite interesting to see that. So I see that quite often as well.
Would you say that was one of your hardest interviews to do?
It was quite, I had to prepare really tough for it, because I wasn't sure what to expect from him, you know. But it went very well, and I remember that very well. It was good.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand now. So, you know, you've done so many interviews, and you've done so many things. And what's the preparation process like before you get before your action?
I get a rundown from the producers, and then I kind of do my research as well for what I think would be timely for the occasion. But most of my producers do quite a bit of work, but I also do my research, especially when it's a personal interview, because you need to make the person feel comfortable and make them feel like you know them, so that you're not asking unfamiliar questions. But it takes quite a process.
I mean, so what are you saying to the next 10 years now?
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It was really lovely speaking to you, Ebuka. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so honored. I learn from you every time, and it was really lovely to be here.
Thank you very much for doing this, and I'm very proud of you as well, and I can't wait to see you do even more amazing things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you next Sunday. That was good.